Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedamscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tam Hadevam Atma Buddhi Prakasham Mukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye Satoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay, so thanks for joining and share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
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 Last class we stopped on 382.
Yes.
382. We had also finished the sloka. There was nothing left, I think. So, can we move on to 383?
Yes.
Yeah. Vishuddham antakaranam swarupe
Vishuddham
Antahkaranam Swarupe
niveshya sakshini
Niveshya Sakshini
avabodha matre
Avabodha Matre
shanai shanaihi
Shanai
Shanai
nischalatam upanayan
Nischalatam
Nishchalatam
Upanayan
purnam swameva
Purnam
Purnam
Swameva
Swameva
anuvilokayet tataha.
Anuvilokayet Tataha
Vishuddham antakaranam swarupe niveshya sakshinyavabodha matre shanai shanair nischalatam upanayan purnam swamevanu vilokayet tataha. Okay, so this sloka is also some kind of a step-by-step instruction on how to conduct the again nirvikalpa samadhi based nididhyasana. Samadhi based nididhyasana. So Vishuddham antakaranam swarupe. Swarupam means one's own true nature, which is Brahman nature. That is all the teachings. Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Shuddhaha, Buddhaha, Muktaha. That teaching. Niveshya. Vishuddh antakaranam niveshya. Antakaranam is the mind. Antakaranam here is the mind. Swarupe niveshya means by entertaining the thought in the mind. No, when you say place the mind, niveshya really means to place or to enter. And entering a particular thought or entering the mind into a particular object, all that means is that object related thought is there in the mind. You are entertaining certain thoughts. So that is the meaning. Vishuddham antakarana here actually refers to a mind that has been purified by the teaching and also purified by those qualities which we talked about earlier. This Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and all that. So a peaceful mind, a tranquil mind. You cannot sit in meditation when the mind is disturbed. So the mind has to be quite peaceful and at rest. And only that kind of a mind is ready for meditation. So with that kind of a peaceful mind, you sit and entertain thoughts about your Swarupam, which essentially means you recollect all the Vedantic teachings, all the Upanishadic teachings. Sakshini avabodha matre. So that sakshini, avabodha matre and all are qualifying adjectives for the swarupe. All those go together. Swarupe, sakshini, avabodha matre. So sakshini, sakshi means the witness, eternal witness. And I think we talked about this witness thing in the earlier sections. The consciousness is always the witness. It can never be objectified and it can never be witnessed. The consciousness is always the witness. Okay, and that's one of the characteristics of consciousness. And avabodha is also the pure awareness. You know, in Sanskrit, the word bodha can be used in two meanings. One meaning of bodha is knowledge, and another meaning of the word bodha means awareness. So here the word bodha is to be translated as awareness, and consciousness is nothing but awareness. So that swarupe has to be understood as that consciousness which is the eternal witness and which is an eternally conscious aware entity. That is sakshini avabodha matre. Then shanaihi shanaihi. Shanaihi means slowly. Shanaihi means slowly. Shanaihi shanaihi means gradually, very slowly. And this will actually, you should be able to recollect the Bhagavad Gita shloka which sounds similarly, you know. Shanai shanai ruparamet buddhiya dhritigrihitaya. Atma samstam manakritva na kinchidapi chintayet. That is in the 6th chapter it comes. Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter there is a shloka. That shanaihi should, remind you of the Bhagavad Gita shloka. And what this shloka in Vivek Chudamani and what the other shloka in Bhagavad Gita, they both say, when you sit in meditation, your mind requires some time for getting accustomed and acclimatized to that meditation. So you will not go into a samadhi state all of a sudden. It will be a gradual withdrawal of the mind. And that is the meaning of shanaihi shanaihi. Nischalatam upanayan. So that word nischalata means your mind is completely focused on the Vedantic teaching and Atma related teachings, and there is no Anatma related thoughts at all. So the absence of Anatma related teaching is here called Nischalatam. Otherwise, you should not imagine that Nischalata means some kind of a thoughtless state. No, the thoughtless state meditation is what the Patanjali Yoga people talk about. That Chitta Vritti Nirodha, they use that word. Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodha means there they say that you have to completely eliminate all the thoughts from your mind and you should reach a blank state. But that is only the Patanjali Yoga way. And here in the Vedantic meditation, your mind is actually entertaining thoughts actively. And those thoughts are all related to Brahman, Atma, Chaitanyam, consciousness, Sakshi and all that. So that is Nischalata. So as I said, in the previous class, I gave a definition. Vijatiya pratyaya anantarita sajatiya pratyaya pravaha. The sajatiya pratyaya pravaha means a stream of related thoughts which are connected to one another and uninterrupted by non-related thoughts. So all the thoughts that come into your mind should be related to Atma-related thoughts. That is the Nischalatam Upanayan. Upanayan means here to achieve that steady state of thought flow. Okay, then Purnam Swam Eva Anuvilokayete Tataha. So the word Anuvilokayet means you must see or you must discern. But here you are not seeing anything. The word see must be understood very figuratively. It means to understand, to own up. What do you own up? Purnam Swameva. That you own up your nature as the Purna Swarupam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that is Brahman. And that Anantam means complete. It is all encompassing. Nothing is left behind. So it is infinite. So when you are infinite, you are Purnam. You are complete. So that Purnam, you have to connect with that Anantam of the Brahman. Swam Eva. Swam means your own self. So you recognize that you are nothing but Purnam. That thought has to be owned up. That is anuvilokayet. No, vilokana means to see. It's a common verb in Sanskrit. Vilokanam. Anu, the word anu comes when you do something in accordance with something else. Anucharanam, charanam means to walk. Charanam means to walk. Anucharanam means you walk alongside a particular teaching or you walk a particular path. That is anucharanam. Similarly, here anuvilokayan means you own up your true nature in accordance with the Upanishadic teachings. That is anuvilokayet. Tataha in that manner. So again, you would see that it's not something new that you are hearing. It is all the same old teaching, same old slokas coming in different languages. And that is being done because this is something which is not very easy to comprehend. So repetition is necessary for complete doubt-free understanding. So you please take it in that aspect. That was 383. Any questions, or can we go to 384?
We can go. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, we
Okay.
can see. Yeah.
Right. So 384. Dehendriya Prana
Dehendriya Prana
Manohamadibhihi
Manohamadibhihi
Swajnana Kliptaihi.
Swajnana
Swajnana Kliptaihi
Kliptaihi
Akhilaihi Upadhibhihi
Akhilaihi Upadhibhihi
Vimuktam Atmanam
Vimuktam Atmanam
Akhandarupam
Akhandarupam
Purnam Mahakasham
Purnam Mahakasham
Ivavalokayet.
Ivavalokayet.
Okay. Dehendriya Prana Manohamadibhihi Swajnana Kliptaihi Akhilairupadibhihi Vimuktam Atmanam Akhandarupam Purnam Mahakasham Ivavalokayet. So again, that word avalokayet comes here also. Purnam, that word also comes. Okay, so the same idea given in a different angle you can think of. So Deha, Indriya, Prana, Manaha, Aham, all these refer to the various koshas. The word Deha is the Annamaya kosha. The Prana refers to Pranamaya kosha. Manaha refers to Manomaya kosha. Aham refers to the Vijnanamaya kosha. And Adibhihi you can take as Anandamaya kosha. And Indriya is not a separate kosha. Indriya belongs to all the three intermediate koshas. Some Indriyas belong to Pranamaya kosha. Some Indriyas are common to Manomaya Vijnanamaya kosha. So it is essentially all the Pancha kosha components the Acharya is talking about, and he calls them all Upadhi Bhihi. Upadhi means a superimposition. Upadhi means it's a superimposition, and the word superimposition should tell you that it is not real. It is not real. So superimposition always means something that is not belonging to itself, something which is alien. And in this case, the body-mind complex does not affect the consciousness in any real way. So there are different ways in which you can understand this. First of all, Atma is the only real thing, and all the koshas are mithya. Okay, that is one way of looking at it. And all the koshas are limited. They are all parichinnam. Whereas Atma is aparichinnam. It is unlimited, anantam. Okay, so they are completely opposite in nature. Okay, but very often the Ajnani mistakes the body-mind complex to be his own self. Okay, so that is what the Acharya calls about Swa Ajnana Kliptaihi. Swa Ajnanam. Ajnanam means ignorance. Swa Ajnanam means ignorance about one's true nature. Atma Ajnanam. Atma Ajnanam, Swa Ajnanam, Swajnanam. So all these koshas are self-imposed limitations on oneself. We just imagine that we are the body, we are the mind, and we are the intellect. And that mistaken notion is also the upadhi or the superimposition. And once you realize that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, but I am something way beyond that, which is my consciousness, which is I am the consciousness. When you have that knowledge, then you overcome the upadhi, the limitations, imposed on you by the body-mind complex. So this is the one of the tasks to be done during the meditation itself. So when you think of your true nature as Atma, that is one way of thinking. The other way of thinking is that this body is not me. This mind is not me. I am free from this. There is a what is that? Nirvana Shatkam. The very first sloka of Nirvana Shatkam begins like Mano Buddhyankara Chittani Naham. Na aham. I am not my manas. I am not my buddhi. So that is how the shloka itself begins. So that's a very important meditative thought that one can entertain. That I am not my body, I am not my mind, I am not my intellect. These are all something which are superimposed on me through ignorance. And now I am free from my ignorance. I am a knowledgeable person. I have acquired jnanam. So I am free. In that sense, you are free. The body, we talk about bandha. And when we say bandha, the limitation imposed by our body is also a bandha. Because you then get this feeling that you're somehow imprisoned in your body. And the Vedanta tells you that you are actually not imprisoned in your body because you are that consciousness which is actually present in every body. All the bodies that you see around you are all actually floating in you, the consciousness. That is the teaching of Vedanta. So this is a good opportunity to recollect that angle of teaching also. And then you experience or own up the Vimuktam Atmanam. Vimuktam Atmanam is the freed, the liberated. You can say emancipated. You can use all those words. Vimuktam is liberated, freed. Atmanam, one's own self. Akhanda Rupam. Akhanda Rupam means it is not broken. It is not limited. It is khandam. When you have a big item and you cut it into smaller pieces, that cutting is called khandanam. You make a small piece, that is khanda. In the ignorant man's mind, there are pools of consciousness. So I have one consciousness, somebody else has a consciousness, and all the people around us have their independent consciousnesses, and then there is a gap in between. That is the normal ignorant man's vision. But Vedanta actually says that consciousness is not limited at all. Consciousness is one undivided, one unlimited entity that spreads everywhere, that is prevalent everywhere. That is the teaching of Vedanta. So Akhanda Rupam should evoke that knowledge in you, that I, the consciousness, am not really limited in this body or in any body. And here again, I remind you about the 5 principles I talked about in the very, very, very beginning. Consciousness is not part, property, or what is that? Product of the body. Consciousness is not a part, product, or property of the body. Conscious is not. Conscious is an independent entity that pervades and enlivens the body. Consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Consciousness extends beyond the boundaries of the body. And consciousness continues to exist even after the fall of the body. And that consciousness which exists after the fall of the body is not available for transactions, not because it is non-existent, but because it lacks a medium for transaction. I think these 5-6 points I told long back. So one has to remember those points about consciousness and know that the consciousness is actually one unlimited infinite entity, Anantam, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Okay, and here the Acharya brings the example of Akasha or the sky to compare. Purnam Mahakasham iva avalokayate. Purnam, again the word Purnam comes here also, like in the previous shloka. Mahakasham means space. And there is also this common misconception about space. We think that there is space in one room, there is space in one hall, there is an open space outside, and we somehow think that these are all different spaces. But really speaking, there is only one space. And all the buildings, all the walls, all the containers of the space are all in space. So in that sense, space is also infinite. All the planets, all the stars, all the galaxies are all in one space. So the space really cannot be divided. Akasham cannot be divided. But for common people, when they talk as though there is small space here, big space there, and so on. We talk about a pot space and a total space. Really speaking, there is no such thing called pot space. It is just a language, so to say. It's a misconception. The space inside the pot is not different from the space outside the pot. And in fact, the pot itself is existing within the space. So this is the kind of awareness one has to develop, not only about space, but also about consciousness. Consciousness is not existing in pools of consciousness within multiple bodies, but it is that multiple containers, multiple bodies exist in one undivided consciousness. That teaching has to be recollected. That was 384. Was that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Am I going too fast, or is it okay, the speed?
It's okay,
It's
Vasudevaji.
fine. Yes, it's fine. Yeah.
Right. Then we'll go to 385. Ghata Kalasha Kusula
Ghata Kalasha Kusula
Suchi Mukhyaihi
Suchi
Suchi
Mukhaihi
Mukhyaihi
Gagana Mupadhi Shataihi
Gagana
Gaganamukadi
Mupadhishataihi
Tataihi
Vimuktamekam
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 Bhavatina Vividham
Bhavatina Vividham
Tathaiva Shuddham
Tathaiva
Tathaiva
Shuddham
Shuddham
Paramahamadi Vimuktam
Paramahamadi Vimuktam
Param
Param
Ahamadi Vimuktam
Ahamadi Vimuktam
Ekameva
Ekameva
Ghata Kalasha Kusula Suchi Mukhyaihi Gagana Mupadhi Shatair Vimuktamekam Bhavatina Vividham Tathaiva Shuddham Paramahamadi Vimuktam Ekameva. Okay, so here the Acharya actually brings this example of different containers of different sizes and says that even though there are small containers and big containers, and you talk about space in those containers, the space itself is free from these containers, which are basically superimpositions. Okay, so he gives the examples like ghata. Ghata is a pot. Kalasha is a smaller pot. Basically there is no actual difference between ghata and kalasha. Ghata can be taken to be a big pot, and kalasha could be taken as a smaller pot. Maybe kalasha can contain 2 liters of water, whereas ghata can contain 20 liters of water. Yeah. Then kusula is actually a granary. If you have been to villages where farmers are storing grains, they'll have a huge wooden container which is kind of cubical, or it could be it need not be cubical. It could be a rectangle and a tall. What do you call that? Parallelepiped. Yeah. So it will be some 20 feet long and 10 feet width and maybe 10 feet height and all that. Once they harvest the grain will be stored there. That is called kusula. Okay, that is granary. Then suchi mukhaihi. Suchi means needle.
Needed.
Now the needle has a very small hole into which the thread will go. Okay, so Acharya has now given a range of examples from a very small needle hole to a very huge granary and some in between, pot and kalasha and all that. So he says, when you take all these containers, gaganam, the space, upadhishataihi vimuktam ekam. So you may say that the kalasha has limited space, the granary has a huge space and all that. But really speaking, this is just an illusion. The space itself is not limited by any of these containers. Upadi shataihi vimuktam. It is free from. The upadi shataihi means what? This is only 4 in example. But in reality, you have so many containers you can talk about. Every house, every room is a container for space. But really speaking, space is free from all of this because it is one single space in which all these containers are existing. That is the ekam, vimuktam ekam. So the space gaganam is free. It is not affected by any of these containers. Now that is the what is it called? It is called an example, and then the original. I keep repeatedly forgetting that particular word. It is not upamanam. Upamanam, upameyam is one. Yeah. Upamanam is the example. Upameyam is the original which you want to teach through the example. There is similar word there. I'll remember sometime. Yeah. So now we come to the actual teaching. Shuddham param aham. That is the key word. Shuddham param aham means that consciousness. Sorry, someone said something.
No,
Okay,
sir, that was by mistake. Sorry.
that's okay. Bhavatina vividham tathaiva shuddham. So similarly, the consciousness param aham. That param aham means that aham brahmasmi consciousness, that paramatma consciousness, which is shuddham, which is pure, na vividham bhavati. That is not divided into various categories. It is not existing in pools of consciousness. You know, even though we may say that animals also have consciousness, even ant has a spark of consciousness. Those are all languages that we use. But really speaking, these various living beings, which we mistakenly take as containers of consciousness, are not really limiting the consciousness in any way. Consciousness is ekameva, vimuktam ekameva. That vimuktam is common to the akasham and to the consciousness. Vimuktam ekameva. There is only one consciousness. That consciousness appears to be manifesting so many different living beings. Okay, and I think that idea comes in the next sloka, but I'll give you a hint here. So you might say, okay, now I understand there is consciousness and there are containers. So how do you talk about Advaita? Because you have consciousness, one entity, containers, second entity. So you have consciousness and container. How do you say then there is Advaitam? Advaita means non-dual. There is only one. Okay, so the answer comes in the next sloka that we will read. Now, any questions till 385?
No.
Devanji.
No? Okay. So 386 we read now. Brahmadi Stamba Paryanta
Brahmadi Stamba Paryanta
Mrishamatra Upadhayaha.
Mrishamatra Upadhayaha
Upadhayaha.
Tatah Purnam Swamatmanam
Tatah
Tatah
Purnam
Purnam
Swamatmanam
Swamatmanam
Pashyed Ekatmana Sthitam.
Pashyedekatmana Sthitam.
Brahmadi Stamba Paryanta Mrishamatra Upadhayaha Tatah Purnam Swamatmanam Pashyed Ekatmana Sthitam. So here the containers are the various bodies starting from Brahmaji. Brahmaji, the Hiranyagarbha, the four-headed Brahma married to Saraswati. He is the highest form of, Devata or whatever you call it. And that Brahmaji has a very, very fine body, extremely fine, subtle body. And from that onward, all the way down to the lowest form of animal existence or lowest form of plant existence, whatever you call it. You have a unicellular organism called amoeba or a phytoplankton. These are some of the words you learn in biology. Phytoplankton, zooplankton, and all that. So they are all supposed to be a small unicellular organism, amoeba, paramecium, and all that. Okay. So down to that organism, upadhayaha mrishamatra. These are all containers. These are all upadhis. Upadhis are superimpositions. They are all mrishamatra. Mrisha means something that appears to exist, but it is actually non-existent. That is mithya. Mrisha can be understood here as mithya. And we give a lot of examples for that. One of the common Vedantic example is the rope snake. There is a rope lying in semi-darkness and you mistake it to be a snake. That is rope snake. And then you have mirage water. So at a distance, you think there is a pool of water, but when you go close by, you see there is no water, there is only sand. These are all some of the examples we give for Mithya-vastu. Okay, so Acharya wants to say that all these bodies, which are apparent containers of consciousness, they are all only Mithya. So that is why we say this is Advaitam, because consciousness alone is the true entity. Everything else is not to be counted. Like I said in one of the earlier classes, your shadow exists. Your shadow does exist, but you don't count your shadow. So when you walk into a restaurant and order some coffee or tea, you don't order 1 cup for yourself and 1 cup for your shadow. You don't do that. Because you know that even though the shadow exists, it is not to be counted. So the containers or the bodies are also exactly like that. They are experienced. They are experienced, but they are not to be counted. That way they are mrisha. Tatah purnam swamatmanam. So in this manner, you own up your true nature as purnam. The word purnam also can be understood like this. When there are two real entities, one will limit the other. Whereas when there is only one real entity without a second, there is nothing to limit that entity. And that is why it is Purna, without limitation. Is this easy to understand?
Yes.
Yeah, let's say, let's take an example, solid example. Let's say you are traveling in a car, and the car can only normally take 3 people to sit. And let's say you have a 4th passenger. So that 4th passenger entering the car will make the place more limited for the 3 of you. Or even in a 3-seater, if 2 people travel, you have more space. And the moment a 3rd person comes, you are feeling restricted. Okay, so 3 people all in the same level of reality limit each other. Okay, but when we talk of consciousness being Purna Vastu, and when we say consciousness is the only real entity, everything else is unreal, that means there is nothing to limit consciousness. It has no boundary. It is free from all limitations, and that is why it is Purnam. So that is another way of understanding Purnam. So, Swam Atmanam Purnam Pashyet. So, own up your true nature as that Purna Vastu, which is not limited at all. Ekatmana Sthitam. And that Purnam consciousness is Ekam. It has no second. In the Upanishad, I think in the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 6th chapter, the mantra runs like this: Tadeva Sadeva Saumya Ida Agra Asit Ekameva Dvitiyam. Ekam Eva Advitiyam. So that comes in the Upanishad itself. So Ekam Eva, there's only one consciousness. Advitiyam, without a second one. So that is the way we have to understand our true nature. Pashyet, the word Pashyet comes here. Formerly it was Vilokayet. In the previous 2 shlokas, we saw Vilokayet. And here we say, Acharya is saying Pashyet. They mean the same thing. Pashyet means to see, and to see here means to own up, to understand. That was 386. Okay. Any questions?
Stevenji.
Right. Then we go to 387. Yatra bhrantya kalpitam
Yatra bhrantya kalpitam
kalpitam
yad viveke.
yad viveke.
yad viveke.
There are 2 readings. There's a tad viveke and there is a yad viveke. Okay, I'll go with the yad viveke reading.
Okay.
So, yatra bhrantya kalpitam yad viveke
Yatra bhrantya kalpitam yad viveke.
viveke
tattanmatram naiva
Tattanmatram naiva
naiva
tasmad vibhinnam.
Tasmat
tasmad vibhinnam
Bhranter nashe bhati
Bhranter
nashe bhati
drishtahi tattvam
drishtahi tattvam
tattvam
rajjustadvat
rajjustadvat
tadvad
vishwamatmaswarupam.
vishwamatmaswarupam.
Okay, so this sloka will require a little long explanation, and it goes like this. So when you mistake a rope to be a snake, initially you thought it was a snake. There is this rope lying on the ground in semi-darkness, and you are walking in that path, and suddenly you see that, and you mistake it to be a rope. I mean, a snake. You mistake it to be a snake. And then a guru comes, a rope guru comes, he shines a torchlight and shows that, look, it is not a snake, it's a rope. At that point, your ignorance about that rope vanishes. And along with that ignorance, that snake also vanishes. Okay? From that point, you stop calling it a snake and you start calling it a rope. Until the torchlight was shined, you called it a snake. Even when the Guru came with the torchlight, you told, hey Guru, look, there's a snake. And then after the Guru shown the torchlight on the rope, and you realized it was a rope, you don't continue to call it a snake. You only call it a rope. Okay, so what the Acharya wants to convey through this example is the knowledge. Once the knowledge removes the ignorance, your vocabulary switches to the vocabulary of the knowledgeable person, and you drop the vocabulary of the ignorant person. Okay, I think this is not complicated. This is clear, right? Or is it
Yeah.
confusing?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Clear, sir.
So that is the meaning the Acharya wants to convey here. Yatra bhrantya kalpitam. Bhranti here means ignorance. Kalpitam means imagined. Okay. Yatra bhrantya kalpitam yad viveke. And once that ignorance is removed by knowledge, tattan matram naiva tasmad vibhinnam. Okay. So then that object is referred to in that, this tatu is actually a very versatile pronoun in Sanskrit, and it is used left, right, and center. Unless it is clarified properly, it will cause a lot of confusion. So what this basically means is that object which was mistaken to be something else, once that mistake is rectified through knowledge, that object will then be referred to by that name. Okay. That means what? It means it will be referred to by the right name. Okay. Naiva tasmad vibhinnam means not by the other name. Okay. This is a very, very funny and also very complicated aspect of Sanskrit language. Okay. That tatu, tasmad, all that is pronoun. Okay. It neither refers to the rope, not to the snake, not to anything proper.
Yeah.
Okay. And to understand this sentence, one has to take a little time and digest it slowly. So all that it means is once your ignorance is removed, you stop referring to it in that term and you refer to it in the correct term. That means if you thought there was a snake, now that you know it is no longer a snake but it is a rope, you will now start using the word rope and not the snake. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the example.
Yeah.
That is the first two lines. Okay. Bhranter nashe bhati drishta ahitatvam. Ahi means snake. Bhranti again is ignorance. Ahitatvam. Here the word ahitatvam should be understood properly. It is the substratum on which the snake existed, which is the rope. So the real meaning of ahitatvam is not some kind of a tattvam taught by the snake. No. Ahitatvam means the substratum on which the snake had existed. The stuff of which the snake was made, which is the rope. Okay. So bhranter nashe bhati drishta ahitatvam. So what you had mistaken to be a snake formerly now appears to your eyes as a rope. Okay. So rajjuhu. That is rajjuhu comes in the fourth line. Ahitatvam rajjuhu. Rajju means a rope. Okay. Tadvat vishwam atmaswarupam. Now this is the real teaching of the shloka. All the other was just example. All the 3.5 lines was just example. Tadvat vishwam atmaswarupam is the real teaching of the shloka. Tadvat vishwam atmaswarupam. So what does it mean? Until knowledge happened, you thought there was a world outside and that world is different from you. And then you went through Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, and you understood that really speaking, this world is nothing different from me. Atma Swarupam. This is nothing but my own nature appearing as a world. Brahman appearing as a world. So the world is not really something different from Brahman. It is Brahman appearing as the world. So that is the teaching. Vishwam Atmaswarupam. Tadvade. So what that means is, after Jnanam has happened, after the person has acquired Jnanam, the person does not really differentiate between one's own self and the world. No, and this, I think this idea has been talked about in Bhagavad Gita in so many places. Sarvabhutastham Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani. No, that sloka, I think I also talked about it much before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sarvabhutastham Atmanam. So I am present in every bhutam, every living being. Sarvabhutani cha Atmani. And all the beings exist in me. In me the Chaitanyam, in me the Brahman. So that aspect has to be recollected. That was 387. Okay.
Yeah.
All good?
Vasudevanji,
Yes, sir.
I have one question regarding this shloka.
Hmm.
Here they say the snake is our own imagination, right?
Correct.
But in the shloka, you also mentioned whether it is the rope or the entire world. That is the substratum on which the snake impression has come up. But the
No,
snake is not made up of the rope.
Wait,
No?
wait. Don't bring the world here. So the example is the rope and the snake. That's all. There is nothing else in that
Okay,
example.
fine.
So when
Okay.
you see the rope, because of semi-darkness, the rope appears to be a snake.
Okay.
Okay, and there is no snake other than the rope.
Right.
Okay. Now, what's the question?
Yeah. My question was, why is it said that the snake is formed by the rope in our imagination? Because the snake is formed because of darkness, right? It's not the rope itself that
It's a
is composed of the
combination of
snake.
both. Imagine
Okay.
it was semi-darkness,
Yeah.
but there was no rope there.
Okay.
Would you
Okay.
still
There would
imagine a snake?
be no snake at all. Okay.
Would you still imagine a snake? And
No.
let's say the rope was there, but
Yeah.
it was not semi-dark. It was complete darkness, total
Okay.
darkness. Will you still see a snake?
Fine.
You will not, because the rope
Okay.
itself is not visible.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Got it, Vasudevanji. Yes.
Yeah. So that's it. So in Advaitam, especially when we give an example, that example is a very specific instrument to illustrate a particular point, and the example should not get extended beyond the scope of what we intended.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So can we go to 388?
Yes.
Swayam Brahma, Swayam Vishnu,
Swayam Brahma,
Swayam
Swayam Vishnu,
Vishnu,
Swayam Indraha, Swayam Shiva,
Swayam
Swayam
Indraha,
Indraha,
Swayam
Swayam
Shivaha,
Shivaha,
Swayam Vishwamidam Sarvam,
Swayam
Swayam
Vishwamidam Sarvam,
Vishwamidam Sarvam,
Swasmad Anyanna Kinchana.
Swasmadanya
Kinchana,
Kinchana,
Anyat, Swasmad Anyat Na Kinchana.
Swasmadanyat na Kinchana.
So Anyat, when it is followed by a na, that t also becomes n. So Swasmad Anyat Na Kinchana becomes Swasmad Anyanna Kinchana. That's a Sandhi rule in Sanskrit. Okay. So Swayam Brahma, Swayam Vishnu, Swayam Indraha, Swayam Shiva, Swayam Vishwamidam Sarvam, Swasmad Anyanna Kinchana. Now this is a sloka that can disturb a lot of people, because Acharya says, Swayam Brahma. Swayam means one's own self. So all the devatas that we worship, Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, Shiva, everything is not different from me. That is the teaching here. Swayam Brahma, Swayam Vishnu, Swayam Indraha, Swayam Shiva. Okay. there is a parallel mantra in the Upanishad, which I think the Acharyas kind of having in mind. In Mundakopanishad, a mantra comes. Brahmai Vedam Amritam Purastad Brahma Paschad Brahma Dakshinatas Chotrena Adhascha Urdham Cha Prasitam Brahmai Vedam Vishwamidam Varishtam. That is a mantra in Mundakopanishad. That mantra, I think, also comes in Katopanishad, if I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong, but it definitely comes in Mundakopanishad. Okay. And so there, that Upanishad mantra basically says, Brahmai Vedam Amritam Purastat. Purastat means in front of me. Paschat means behind me. Okay. So all directions. Brahmai Vedam Amritam Purastat, Brahma Paschat, Brahma Dakshina Satcha Uttarena. On my right and on my left, it's only Brahman. Adhascha Urdhvam Cha. Adhaha means bottom, down below. Urdhvam means sky, top. Adhascha Urdhvam Cha Prasritam Brahmai Vedam Vishwamidam Varishtam. Nothing but Brahman all over the world. That is the mantra. And so this actually becomes, this makes a little more specific reference to Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, and Shiva and all that. Okay. So the Tatparyam or the teaching is that all these devatas are nothing but Brahman, the Chaitanyam, the consciousness, subject to one or another Upadhi. Upadhi being here the shape, name, form. So in a particular form, you call Brahman, Shiva or Vishnu or Indra or Brahma or whatever. But essentially, when you remove that Upadhi, when you remove that Nama Rupa, then what underneath that exists is Chaitanyam alone, Brahman alone. And that Brahman is not different from me. Swasmad Anyat na kinchana. There is nothing other than that Brahman which is myself. That Chaitanyam consciousness. Swayam Vishwamidam. Even the whole world is nothing but an appearance of Brahman. So, this particular concept or teaching is challenged by many of the other philosophies by asking, how dare you equate yourself with Vishnu or Shiva or Brahma or whatever? Yeah, because you are a small entity with 5 feet 8 inches height and 70 kilos weight or whatever. How dare you call yourself to be equivalent of Brahma, Vishnu? So the answer to that is, when I say I'm not referring to my body-mind complex. I'm referring to my inherent, intrinsic nature, which is Chaitanyam. I am equating only the Chaitanyam with all the other devatas, and not this body. This body is definitely finite and small, and it is perishable. That is not my identity. So you disown that identity with your body-mind complex, own up the Chaitanyam, and then make this claim. If you're still hanging on to your body, you cannot make this claim. So that has to be a clear disclaimer for this shloka. Without the disclaimer and accepting the disclaimer, the shloka will be like blasphemy. And Shankaracharya is not blasphemizing here. Shankaracharya is actually giving the true teaching. So the true teaching has to be understood in this particular manner. Okay. So that was 388. It's a very small shloka. The idea is very simple. I finished it. If you still have some questions, we can talk.
Vasudevanji.
Yeah, all good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Antah Swayam Chapi,
Antah Swayam Chapi,
Bahi Swayam Cha,
Bahi Swayam Cha,
Swayam cha.
Swayam Purastat,
Swayam
Swayam
Purastat,
purastat.
Swayameva Paschat,
Swayameva
Swayameva
Paschat,
paschat.
Swayam Hyavachyam,
Swayam
Swayam Hyavachyam,
Swayam
Swayam
Hyavachyam,
hyavacham.
Swayam Apyudichyam,
Swayam
Swayam
Apyudichyam,
apyudichyam.
Tathoparishtat,
Tathoparishtat,
Uparishtat.
Swayamapyadhastat.
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 Antaswayam chapi bahiswayam cha swayam purastat swayameva paschat swayam hyavachyam swayamapyudichyam tathoparishtat swayamapyadhastat. That Upanishad mantra that I quoted 1 minute back is actually applicable in this shloka. Because
Yeah.
this is the shloka which paraphrases that mantra. Brahmai Veda Amritam Purastad, Brahma Paschat, Brahma Dakshinataschotrena. That Purastad and Paschat words you see here.
Yeah.
Second line. Okay. Avachyam, Udichyam. Avachyam means Dakshina. Udichyam means Uttarataha. Okay. Antaha Bahihi. So Brahmai Veda Amritam Purastad, Brahma Paschat, Brahma Dakshinataschotrena. Adhascha Urdvanta Prasritam. So Adhastat is there. Adhascha Urdvam. Aparishtat. Uparishtat means Urdvam. So that mantra should be fitted here, and it is not the previous shloka, but I maybe jumped the gun and made it one shloka earlier. So this is the mantra which says Anta Swayam Chapi. So I am only available inside. Antaha means inside. Bahihi is outside. Swayam Cha. Swayam Purastat. In front also I am only there. Swayameva Paschat. Behind also I am only there. Hyavachyam is on the right, Dakshina. Udichyam is on the left, Uttara, north direction. Uparishta is Upar, up above. Adhastat is down below. So it is all Brahman, Brahman, Brahman only. And that Brahman is none other than myself. That is the Upanishad mantra being paraphrased by Acharya here. Because I gave the mantra before, I don't have to give a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
I think it is self-explanatory.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Then we'll do 390. Taranga Phena Brahma Budbudadi.
Taranga
Phena
Phena Brahma Brahma Mudbudadi.
Brahma Budbudadi.
Brahma Mudbudadi.
Yeah. Taranga Phena
Taranga Phena
Phena
Brahma Budbudadi.
Brahma
Brahma
Budbudadi.
Budbudadi.
Sarvam Swarupena
Sarvam
Sarvam
Swarupena
Swarupena
Jalam Yatha Tatha.
Jalam Yatha
Jalam
Tatha.
Yatha Tatha.
Chideva Dehadi
Chideva
Chideva
Dehadi.
Dehadi.
Ahamantametat
Ahamantametat.
Ahamantametat.
Sarvam Chidevaikarasam
Sarvam
Sarvam
Chidevaikarasam
Chidevaikarasam.
Vishuddham.
Vishuddham.
Taranga Phena Brahma Budbudadi Sarvam Swarupena Jalam Yatha Tatha Chideva Dehadyahamantametat Sarvam Chidevaikarasam Vishuddham. So the first two lines talk about the example of an ocean. Okay, an ocean has taranga, which is wave. Taranga is a wave. Phena is a foam. Phena is foam. Budbuda is a bubble. Budbuda is a bubble. And Brahma is probably a current or something. I'm not 100% sure what Brahma means. But these are all different shapes and forms that you see within the ocean. Okay. Sarvam, all of this, Swarupena, in reality, Jalam, they're all water. Whether you see a bubble or foam or a wave or anything, essentially they're all water. Ocean is nothing but a body of water. Okay, so even a droplet can say that I am the ocean, because essentially the essence of the droplet is nothing but water. And that water is the essence of the ocean also. Okay, so even though you call all these things by different names, essentially they are all water. That Swarupena Jalam, his essential nature is water. Okay, so that much is clear. Yeah. Now we'll come to the second half of the shloka. Chideva. Chit here means Chaitanyam, consciousness.
Yeah.
Chideva Dehadi Ahamantametate. So Dehadi means all the 5 koshas. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Ahankara. Aham here means Ahankara. Ahankara is the Vijnanamaya kosha. So all the koshas, Sarvam Chideva Ekarasam. Essentially, these are all nothing but manifestations of Atma only.
Yeah.
These are not different from Atma. Vishuddham should be connected to Chit. The pure Chit only manifests itself as all these koshas. Okay, here one point we have to clearly understand. In the beginning of the Jnana Yoga, when we are just getting introduced to Vedanta, we are told to differentiate between Atma and Anatma. We say, Atma is this, everything other than Atma is Anatma, and you are not Anatma, and you are the Atma. That is the teaching. That teaching goes on for a long time. And at one point, we even say that there is really speaking no such thing called Anatma. We even negate Anatma. Yeah? But then, finally, we return and say that this Anatma is nothing but an appearance of Atma. So we now include Anatma also. So the initial differentiation between Atma and Anatma is to sharpen our Viveka.
Mm.
To sharpen the Viveka and to clarify our confusion.
Mm.
Because if you put everything together, then you will not really know the wheat from the chaff, as they say in English. The grain from the chaff or whatever it is. Yeah. So initially, to sharpen our awareness and Viveka, we say there is Atma, there is a different thing called Anatma. Disown the Anatma, this is not you, you are the Atma. That is the teaching. And that goes on for a long time. But at one point, you include the Anatma and say that this Anatma is not different from me. This is an appearance of my true nature. This is a reflection. You can call it in whatever word you want. But you include Anatma into your existence. And that is the concept of, Vishwam. Brahmai Vedam Vishwamidam Varishtam. In the Upanishad mantra, we say Brahman is the Vishwam. So there is no Vishwam separate from Brahman. So that we close the circle by going in that full loop. So Sarvam Chidevaika Rasam Vishuddham. So in this shloka, Acharya says that all the Pancha Koshas also are a manifestation of Brahman. That closing of the circle happens in this shloka. Is that difficult or easy?
Something new in the sense we have come we have crossed that point where we have said that we are not body, we are not this, and now we have to consider that whatever we have is also Atma itself.
It's a superimposition. So you have to accept it as a temporary superimposition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the teaching. Okay. So 390. We stop here for today.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I was not too fast because I think I have completed 8 shlokas today, which is much bigger run rate compared to previous sessions. Was it too fast today?
No, because there was
No,
a
Vasudeva.
part of it was a repetition kind of. So
Okay, great. Then we'll chant our closing shlokas. Yeah.
mhm.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Can you please close the recording, ma'am?
Thank you very much, and have a nice time in India.